Today we are going to practice consecutive integer word problems. The very first thing that we do need to review is what a consecutive integer is. If I am starting at 1, the next consecutive integer would be 2, and then 3, and then 4, so on and so forth. You don't have to start at 1. Say we started at -10. The next consecutive integer would be -9, and then -8, so on and so forth. So that is a consecutive integer. The very first example here, we're going to find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 123. We're going to start with our let statement, so we're going to let x equal our first integer. For the second integer, just as an example here, let's say 1 was our first integer. Our second consecutive integer, to get from 1 to 2, you'll notice that we're adding 1 to that. So we're going to let x plus 1 equal our second integer. Now to get to the third consecutive integer here, I have my initial integer, and to get there I'm adding 2 to that. So we have x plus 2 is going to be our third integer. That's how we're going to set up our let statement. Now what we know is that the sum of these 3 integers is 123, so we can set up our equation. X plus 1 plus x plus 2, and that is all going to equal 123. Now that we have our equation, we can solve our equation. We're going to combine our like terms here. We have 3 x's, and we have 1 plus 2 is 3. My first step, combining like terms. From here, I'm going to solve. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. That gives me 3x equals 120. Divide by 3 on both sides. I've run out of room, and we get x is equal to 40. We're not done though, because we need to find 3 integers. We're going to look right back up here at our let statements. If x is 40, the next thing that we need to do is we need to find x plus 1, which is going to be 41, and x plus 2, which is 42. For our check here, we can just check and make sure that 40 plus 41 plus 42 equals 123, and it does. The very last thing we need to do is write a sentence. And here's my sentence. The integers are 40, 41, and 42. The next type of problem you might see is a consecutive even integer word problem. When we think about even integers that are consecutive, we can think 2, 4, 6, 8, so on and so forth. So for the example right here, find the 3 consecutive even integers whose sum is 72. We're going to start with the let statement. So we're going to let x equal that first integer. And now when we go to the second consecutive integer, this time we're jumping over a number. We're jumping over the odd number. So this is going to be our x plus 2 to get to there. So x plus 2 is going to equal our second integer. And to get to that third integer, we're jumping over a bunch. It's x plus 4. Forgot the r right here. Now that we have our let statements, we can set up our equation. So we know the sum is 72, so our equation is x plus 2, the first integer plus the second integer plus the third, and all of that is going to equal 72. My first step in solving, combine like terms. I have 3x plus 6 equals 72. Subtract 6 from both sides, and that gives me 3x is equal to 66. Now we're going to divide by 3 on both sides, and we end up getting x equals 22. We do have to go back and look at our let statements here. We've just found the first integer. We need to find the next two. So x plus 2 is going to be 24, and x plus 4 is going to be 26. For my sentence, the integers are 22, 24, and 26. Now on to the last type of consecutive integer word problems that you will see. We're going to talk now about consecutive odd integers. For example, 5, 7, 9, 11, so on and so forth. For the example that we are going to go through, find the 3 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 117. We start this one off the same way. We're going to let x equal our first integer. Now to get to that second integer, if this is x, we have to jump over the even number. So this is also going to be x plus 2, just like the consecutive even integers. X plus 2 is my second integer, and that's because I am jumping over the even number that is in between there. And to get to that third integer, I have to add 4. So x plus 4 is going to be my third integer, and that's because I have to jump over 2 even numbers there. Now we can set up our equation. We know the sum is 117, so we have our first integer plus our second integer plus our third integer, and that is going to equal 117. When we combine our like terms right here, we have 3x plus 6 is equal to 117. I'm going to go solve, subtracting 6 on both sides. That's going to give me 3x equals 111. When I divide by 3 on both sides, that's going to give me x is equal to 37. Now to find the next two integers, x plus 2 is 39, and x plus 4 is 41. For my sentence, the integers are 37, 39, and 41. We have 3 more practice problems to do. So again, we have consecutive integers, one right after another. Consecutive even integers, skip over the odd numbers, so that would be x plus 2, x plus 4. Consecutive odd integers, skip over the even numbers, but that's still x plus 2, x plus 4. So let's go ahead and practice. If I can zoom in here. Okay, try this one on your own. Pause it and come back and see how you did. I set up my let statements. We have x, x plus 1, x plus 2, and x plus 3 to represent the 4 integers. I then set up my equation, adding them all together, setting it equal to negative 62. Combined like terms to get 4x plus 6 equals negative 62. Solved to get x equals negative 17. Found the rest of those consecutive integers by adding 1 each time. My integers are negative 17, negative 16, negative 15, and negative 14. Last but not least, I wrote my sentence out to answer the question. Now on to even integers. Right here, let's find the 2 consecutive even integers whose sum is negative 118. Pause it and come back and see how you did. I started with setting up my let statement. Let x equals the first integer, and x plus 2 is going to equal the second integer, and that's because we're skipping over that odd number, and we are going to the next one after that, the next even number. I then set up my equation by adding my 2 integers together. I combine my like terms and then solve the equation to get x equals negative 60. If my first integer is negative 60, my second integer, or x plus 2, is negative 58. So there is my answer. Last but not least, I wrote my sentence. The integers are negative 60 and negative 58. Now we're looking at odd consecutive integers. So we are going to find the 4 consecutive odd integers whose sum is negative 328. Pause this and come back and see how you did. I started off with defining my variables, x plus 2, x plus 4, and x plus 6. The reason why we're adding 2 each time is because we're skipping over that even number to get to the next odd number. Now I set up my equation by adding these all up and setting it equal to negative 328. I solved my equation and got x equals negative 85, and then I found the rest of my consecutive odd integers as negative 83, negative 81, and negative 79. And lastly, I wrote my sentence. The integers are negative 85, negative 83, negative 81, and negative 79.